Teaching Cooking Confidently, a presentation for leaders of EYFS cooking activities. I'm Jane Sixsmith. I'm a Food for Life cooking skills trainer. The aim of this session is to share practical teaching tips and ideas and increase your confidence to lead Food for Life cooking activities in an EYFS setting. By the end of the session, you'll have considered the value and place of cooking activities in the EYFS programme for children aged 1 to 4 and as part of a whole-setting approach to healthier food. You'll have reviewed the cooking-related Food for Life Early Years Award criteria and gained up-to-date information about health and safety issues. You'll have explored a range of organisation and teaching techniques for manageable and effective practical lessons and picked up ideas to support families in receipt of the Healthy Start vouchers. The best way to start is with a simple cooking activity. So let's make an open-top sandwich. This is suitable for the youngest children to prepare. It's great for snack time or breakfast and develops a range of skills like spreading and arranging and sprinkling things on top. There's options for seasonal toppings. And this encourages creativity and choice. The recipe is a great one to share with parents, and it uses fresh or canned fruit or veg. I'm going to run the film now. This is a film we made to show you how you might teach the open-top sandwich.
This simple recipe is suitable for nursery children to prepare themselves or for family sessions. It is great for snack time or refreshments at an event. The ingredients can be adapted to suit what is in season, what is growing in the garden, or what you'd like your children and their parents to learn more about. There are 4 basic elements to the recipe: a starchy base, a smooth, nutritious spread, a fruit or vegetable topping, and something tasty and attractive to sprinkle on top. For those parents entitled to Healthy Start Scheme vouchers, they can use them to buy the fruit and veg to make this recipe at home. Choose a base that is strong enough for the children to spread onto. You don't want to use something very soft or it will crumble and fall apart. Bagels, toast, pita bread, oat cakes, rice or corn cakes and bread muffins are all suitable. Offer a variety of white and wholemeal for children to see and taste. The spreads on offer can be full-fat vegetable or animal-based. Something like cream cheese, which is a great source of calcium, so helps build strong bones and teeth, or hummus for a good source of vegetable protein, iron and fibre. Other suitable spreads include peanut butter, depending on your allergies policy, fish pâté and vegetable-based dips like pea and mint, or mashed avocado with lime and chilli. Be creative with the fruit and vegetable choices you offer for toppings. It is reassuring to have some familiar ingredients like sliced banana, apple or cucumber, but you can take the opportunity to offer some new things too. Let the children make their own choices, and don't worry if they are a bit unusual. Who says cream cheese, strawberry and mange tout doesn't work? For a boost of extra flavour or crunch, introduce the children to herbs, spices and seeds, such as ground cinnamon, chilli flakes, snipped chives, basil leaves, poppy and pumpkin seeds, pomegranate and edible flowers. Spreading with a table knife is quite a tricky skill to master at a young age. It is much easier to spread with the back of a spoon or a small, wide-bladed palette knife, so show the children how to do this. Also, show them how to chop soft fruit and vegetables using the bridge technique. Strawberries, bananas and cooked beetroot are easy to cut when first learning, as a knife goes through them with minimal pressure needed. A very small serrated knife can be introduced with the older children, but it is safer to use a table knife with the younger ones. Show how to take a pinch of something like cinnamon and sprinkle it with their fingers. Encourage the children to arrange the ingredients, thinking about colours, patterns and shapes. The healthy eating message "Eat a Rainbow" is a suitable one to promote for this age children. Check the records of the group for allergies and intolerances, and offer ingredients to suit the diversity of the community. In the recipe Ideas Illustrated, the main allergens are cereals containing gluten, found in the base products, milk in the cream cheese, peanuts in the peanut butter, fish in the pâté, and sesame in the hummus. You may also have children with slight intolerance to fruit like kiwi, tomatoes, and strawberries. Encourage the children to taste what they've prepared. Under COVID restrictions, it is best not to share plates and food that has been handled by another person, excluding the nursery cook, of course. Lead by example and show how much you are enjoying your creation too. Aim to make eating new things an everyday norm and encourage conversation about food, cooking and eating. Offer praise for trying new things.
This slide shows how cooking fits in the early years foundation stage. Encouraging children to cook helps with learning and development in line with the statutory framework for EYFS. Communication and language, physical development, personal, social and emotional development, literacy, mathematics, understanding the world, expressive art and design. This slide shows how to help build early learning goals through practical cooking activities. So in personal, social and emotional development, you can use cooking for tasting new foods and discussing likes and dislikes, to develop skills like chopping, mixing, rolling and mashing, and to eat and share food. Mathematics can be drawn out of the activity through weighing and measuring ingredients, counting and sequencing, and investigating the shapes and sizes of different foods. To develop communication and language or literacy, you can talk and listen to others through the activities you do with food. Role play like shopping for ingredients fits really well, and there are lots of stories and songs involving food that you can link the practical activity into. There's opportunities to understand the world through using different pieces of equipment, like a pasta machine or chopsticks, and to learn about where the food comes from and find out about the food from around the world. Talking about and eating foods that keep us happy and healthy, and using equipment safely and developing fine motor skills all help to increase their physical development. The expressive arts and designs element can be explored through developing the language that's linked to cooking, to help them use their senses to form opinions and to link into stories and poems. Cooking also introduces young children to science, with opportunities to investigate, predict, experiment and observe. In the primary curriculum, cooking is a mandatory element of the design and technology. I put this in just to show you what the children will go on to when they leave your settings. As part of their work with food, pupils should be taught how to cook and apply the principles of nutrition and healthy eating. Instilling a love of cooking in pupils will also open a door to one of the great expressions of human creativity. Learning how to cook is a crucial life skill that enables pupils to feed themselves and others affordably and well, now and in later life. That sets the context for the curriculum work around cooking and nutrition. And every child from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 3 should explore cooking and nutrition in the curriculum. Specifically at Key Stage 1, pupils should be taught to use the basic principles of a healthy and varied diet to prepare dishes and to understand where their food comes from. Cooking is very clearly an element of the Food for Life Early Years Award, and I've highlighted here where you'll find specific elements linked to food and cooking. So under the food leadership and food culture, we consult with children, parents, carers and staff when planning our menus. That could also be when planning your cooking activities. 2.7 says we ensure staff eat with our children and act as positive role models during meal and snack times. And, the example of the film we've just seen, the open top sandwich, that might be an opportunity for you to act as a positive role model. 2.8 says we present our food attractively and encourage children to develop an interest and enjoyment of food through stimulating their senses. And 2.9, we encourage children's independence in choosing and eating meals and snacks. There is a specific category of food education, and 3.2 says we provide cooking sessions for children that promote healthy recipes with fruit and vegetables, including those that we've grown. And under the category of community partnerships and parent engagement, the relevant bit for cooking, or the relevant bits, are we make efforts to actively engage parents, carers and the wider community in our growing, cooking and farm links activities. And 4.2, we take every opportunity to encourage children and families to taste and talk about a variety of foods, including seasonal fruit and vegetables. So that's all the elements around why you might be leading cooking activities. And so the next sections deal with how you'd actually go about planning and delivering those as effectively and safely as possible. So the principles that I'm going to talk about link into these bullet points here. So plan cooking activities that are easy, fun, safe and hygienic, that are of interest to parents, so perhaps to help them use their Healthy Start vouchers to give them ideas. So cooking activities that are relevant to children's lives and make trying new things the norm. They're in line with the Eat Better, Start Better voluntary food and drink guidelines and based on fresh ingredients, healthy choices and suitable portions. And cooking activities that promote positive social experiences. I've put a slide in about health and safety because that's always a concern, or people, want to know that they're doing the right thing. So I would advise that staff leading cooking activities have undertaken level 2 food safety training. That is probably something that all your staff will have achieved anyway. That you develop an internal food preparation and storage policy based on the 4 C's, which are cleaning, chilling, cooking, and avoiding cross-contamination. And also undertaking risk assessments for the cooking activities, so you really know where the high-risk elements of the activity are, and you can take measures to mitigate that. Refer to your own allergens policy. And just to flag up that there's going to be a change to the law in October with the introduction of Natasha's law. Think about the practical solutions that make the cooking activities as safe as possible. So it might be that you have to have table coverings and cleaning systems in place that enable you to do cooking activities in the general rooms that you've got the children in, where other activities take place as well. And if you can establish routines with the children, it'll make the whole thing, the sessions run more quickly and more effectively and efficiently. So start them off with, the proper hand washing technique. Use aprons, wear aprons, get the children to push their sleeves back. Put bobbles in their hair if it's long and draping into the food, and clean the tables properly. And remember, you're there as a role model and to guide them through it. So be as positive about the food that you're preparing as possible. I've looked here at 3 sort of different levels of risk within cooking to help you manage or to think about how you'd manage group cooking. So if you're doing high-risk activities, which might be, say, with the older children, you're introducing simple knife skills, you might manage that risk by putting in individual support or having one adult to, say, 2 or at maximum 4 children and doing it somewhere in a very quiet environment. Maybe you just have one knife and that would be passed from child to child safely so that you can really see how they're doing it. Some activities might be categorised as medium risk, where perhaps children have already learned a skill and they're practising it again. So you could have sort of focused tasks around one table or children move between low risk activities and slightly higher risk activities moving around the classroom. And for low risk activities, that might be things like just, putting things together, mixing or shaping, where there is very little risk, few dangers involved in it. Things like, a cook-along demonstration, you might be showing them and they're doing the same thing. Or you could, if say there were elements of higher risk, it could be that the adult undertakes that and then the children are watching that element. So assess the level of risk in the activity and then manage things accordingly. A really good and low risk activity to do with a group of children is to make bread. It's easy, it's very adaptable. There's a wide diversity of options of types of bread you can make. We said it's low risk, so you could probably do with a slightly larger group. And there's lots of learning and development opportunities within it. It's cheap and it's really creative. It's a good opportunity to focus on savoury options rather than, cakes and biscuits. And there's lots of links to topics and stories. So a great recipe to do with the children. And something like this shown on the breadboard, the breadsticks, if the children have been used to handling salt dough and Play-Doh and things like that, they'll easily be able to roll some dough out into long sticks. If we're starting the children off with skills and perhaps as an introduction to any knife skills, promote the use of hands as tools. Encourage young children to use their hands in cooking to do things like tearing herbs, breaking mushrooms, crumbling cheese, peeling bananas and shredding lettuce. You'll have to help them understand, that they need to wash their hands and when they need to do that. Having food on their hands doesn't make them dirty. They don't have to wash them at every little opportunity. But there are times when they really need to wash them, if they've put their hands in their mouths or touched areas of the room where they might have picked up bacteria. By the age of 4, you could probably start introducing proper knife skills with the children. And there are 2 key building blocks for, the knife skills that you develop in later life as well. If you want to cut something in half, the safest way to do it and to teach it is to use a bridge technique. And if you want to slice something, here we've got a spring onion being sliced up, you can use a claw technique where your holding hand grips it like an animal's claw. I'm going to show you a film that we make available on the Food for Life website. And this film introduces the bridge cutting technique.
The bridge technique is a safe way of teaching children to cut something in half. Here's how to do it. Start with something soft and small to suit the size of children's hands. I'm going to use a strawberry, but cherry tomatoes and cooked new potatoes are perfect for this too. Choose a knife that matches the size of the children's hands. A serrated knife is good to practice with, as children can easily see which is the sharp side of the blade. Find the most stable position for cutting and place your strawberry flat side down on the chopping board. Hold the strawberry firmly in the hand that you don't write with, thumb to one side and fingers the other, making a tall arched bridge shape. Now you've made your bridge, work out where you're going to cut and teach the children to practice the technique with their index finger before picking up the knife. When you're ready, hold the knife comfortably but firmly in the hand you write with. Place the tip of the blade on the strawberry under the bridge, a bit like a train going through a tunnel. Using a sawing action, cut through the strawberry until the knife hits the chopping board. Repeat the process to get smaller pieces. When you've finished, put the knife down.
This slide helps with managing cooking activities. and it looks at a technique called set-outs. Set-outs could be defined as well-presented arrangements of ingredients and equipment, purposely set out for effective teaching and learning. So this photograph shows a set-out for like a baked omelette, a frittata. And the focus of the session for this is to look at eggs. As I say, the focus will be on, what is an egg? Where does an egg come from? What's that printed on the egg? How do we crack open an egg? How do we beat an egg? So the other ingredients that are going to be mixed into the eggs don't need to be prepared by the children because you're just focusing on the eggs here. So the bacon that is used in this, it doesn't have to have bacon in, but we've got bacon in this one, has been pre-cooked and cooled, so it's ready to use. The potato in the lower middle dish has been cooked and crushed again, so it can just be mixed in, as has the sweet corn. And the chives have been put into a jug, and the children can snip them with a pair of scissors until they're small, and then they can be mixed through. So that is a set out. It does demand then that the leader of the session or somebody else does some preparation beforehand, but it helps you manage the session. It helps you reduce the risk because everybody's just focused on the tray of ingredients that are in front of them and don't have to wander around, fetching equipment or portioning ingredients out. So a really useful lesson management technique. This photograph shows 3 different set-outs for the same recipe, for a vegetable soup recipe. And it perhaps helps illustrate how you could take a recipe and make it suitable for the level of skill or the prior learning that a child has, or a group of children. So let's start on the right-hand side, looking at the Key Stage 2 tray. So that's when the children have been, they've had a great cooking education in school, they've got really good knife skills. You are confident that they can just dice and prepare all of those vegetables. So all you've had to do as the leader of the session is gather those ingredients together, portion them out for them. In the middle, perhaps for the younger children, where you're wanting to focus on specific skills. So let's say here, we're focusing on carrying on developing both the bridge and the claw techniques. We've done some of the trickier preparation in advance. So the courgette has been sliced horizontally to give a flat surface so that it's really stable for children to practice a claw technique with. The potato has been switched from a big potato to smaller potatoes that suit the size of the children's hands. The leek has been prepared similarly to the courgette. The carrot has been switched from a really big one to a small one. It could even have been parboiled just to soften it a little bit to help the children cut through. And we've done a switch there from a big brown onion to spring onions so that children can do that a lot more safely. And that again shows you snipping of herbs in a jug, which is a really useful technique. But for you in EYFS, all of that might be a bit too risky. But we could still do that recipe and focus on using hands as tools and using just a knife to do the bridge technique. So the courgette has been cut into discs, stumpy little discs that the children could, with a knife, cut in half and then cut in half again. The leek has been cut into, again, little sort of rings, and the children could pop all of those layers of the leek out or tear them up. That would be a great opportunity as well for counting how many layers are in that leek. The carrot has been parboiled and it's been cut into little chunks so that they could just halve it. I've removed the preparation of onion from this recipe and done it for them because even slicing up spring onions is probably too risky to do with the youngest children. And again, we've got new potatoes, but there we've cooked them. We've got the smallest ones we can, so that the children could just use a knife, and they could use a table knife, a cooked new potato, to cut it in half. So yeah, 3 set outs for the same recipe that shows how you can change the preparation and make it suitable for prior learning and skills. So this slide highlights that baking is a really great technique, a great skill to learn, and something that you can do quite easily in EYFS sessions. But perhaps let's think about not always making cake. So the sort of learning that we can have through baking is weighing, measuring and counting, mixing, sieving, spreading, rolling out and rubbing in with the fingertips, arranging ingredients like things on top of a pizza. So we've got repetition and pattern, helping the children see how heat changes foods, that the cheese melts, that the surface of something goes from a creamy colour to brown. And to introduce them to a range of equipment. So, a really good thing to do through baking is to show them the different spoons so that they understand the difference between a teaspoon, a dessert spoon, a tablespoon. I sometimes introduce them as the family of spoons. And then later on, that can link in to the fact that a teaspoon is 5 mils, a dessert spoon is 10 mils, and a tablespoon is 15 mils. So some ideas that you could try that are baked products but not cakes are things like croustards. That's a recipe that we have on the Food for Life website. So basically it's a little tart, but it uses cut out discs of bread rather than pastry, much easier to handle. Things like bruschetta, a piece of crunchy bread rubbed with garlic, drizzled with oil, and then vegetables arranged on top. Breadsticks and pizzas, fish cakes, where you're using a mashed potato ready cooked and cooled, things mixed into it, and children can just make them into tiny little like fish cakes or little bites, and then dip in egg and crumbs, and then the leader of the session could fry them off in front of the children. Things like fruit and vegetable tarts that are made with phyllo or puff pastry. I'd avoid using short crust pastry with very young children. It's trickier to handle as it's very short and crumbly. Potato cakes, very similar to the fish cakes, they work nicely. And a recipe we're just going to explore next, a twice baked jacket potato. It's a good idea to choose recipes that fit the guidance in the food and drink checklist. So this is a good one. Twice baked jacket potatoes. So basically you'd bake potatoes, allow them to cool, cut them in half, scoop out the potato, mash it in a bowl and mix other things into it, put it back in the case and then pop it in the oven. So the reasons this would be really useful for you in your settings, it's adaptable for its portion size because you can choose, the different sizes of potatoes. So you can help the children and families understand, what is the right amount of food to be eating. It's good because it has a starchy base with lots of fruit and vegetables. You can add things like kidney beans or chickpeas or lentils into it for protein. In the recipe that we've got here, it's got cheese, which is included for the dairy and the minerals that that contains, particularly calcium. And it's really good because it doesn't have any salt or condiments in it. We have got a sprinkling of black pepper on there, so that might be something you want to encourage for the children. But we're not going to serve it with tomato ketchup or put the salt pot out. So when you've done your cooking, you'll probably want to encourage the children to taste it, and you'll probably do that in a group setting. And we know that you'll have most success when the children have been involved in making the recipe themselves. So some other tips, encourage clean hands and prevent double dipping in communal bowls. That's particularly important at the moment. We don't want to spread any virus or any germs. You could use it as an opportunity to practice with cutlery, because we know that's something that needs to develop over time, and it's a really useful skill if you can send your children off to primary school knowing how to use a knife, fork and spoon. When you're running the tasting activities, just offer small, well-presented samples, plus a cup of water, a jug of water and some glasses. You don't want to put them off. You want to encourage them to try something, especially if it's new. And a good tip is to all taste together so that you don't get the one dissenting voice that puts the others off. Remember to make it fun and to encourage and role model positive comments. There might be something on the tasting plate that you're not very keen on, but try and keep those comments to yourself. And if you've got children who really struggle with trying new foods, there's an approach called the Plate A, Plate B, where you could have Plate A, which is the new foods you want to introduce to the children and to encourage them to try, and that perhaps they're a bit wary of. And then Plate B, where it's foods that they've already accepted and they like a lot. So let's try something from Plate A, this piece of broccoli or this little mange tout, and then when you've done that, let's have something from the other plate. There's a strawberry there that you can have because we know you like that. So that is a piece of research and an approach that has been proved to work. You can develop language through the tasting. Have a really good bank of tasting words that you're going to develop, that describe texture, flavour, colour. And for lots more ideas about sensory education, I'd recommend you go to the Taste Ed website, which I've given here, tasteeducation.com. There's a whole curriculum there of sensory education. I've just highlighted some resources that we've got in Food for Life that you might want to have a look at. So on the EYFS portal, there's a range of cooking skills resources. There's lots of recipes. There's Food for Life recipes and also the Jamie Oliver Kitchen Garden Project recipes. The film I showed you on the bridge is part of a series of films called Skills Snippets. So you might want to hunt those down. And there's an Early Years Award resource pack. It's currently being revised, but that's something, and that's the cover from it that you can see on the picture. So I'm just going to leave you with perhaps some discussion points that you might want to take back and discuss with your colleague. So things like, what recipes should we cook? How can we introduce and use sharp knives with our children? How do we, or are we going to fund ingredients? And how can we upskill our staff so that we're all following the same approach to cooking? How can we manage without a special room for cooking? Some of you will be in settings where you've got purpose-built rooms for cooking, others where you have to adapt tables within your general work area. So to have a think about how you can do that safely and efficiently. How can we involve and engage our parents? And how do we make the time for cooking by perhaps looking at the other things that it's covering within our framework? If you have any other questions and you want to get in touch, please do. Thank you.